But it is only at harvest time that one can tell how well one has worked. The village that bought the tractor and the village where Yusuf lived, both are in my district, and both of them show the kind of problems we are facing in Turkey.
Istanbul, once Constantinople, the second Rome, capital of the Roman Empire when it stretched from the borders of Scotland across all Western Europe to distant Persia. Here a column was set up to mark the center of this world. To the greater glory of God, the Emperor Constantine dedicated the city and gave it his name, while Justinian bequeathed one of the finest churches in all Christendom, Ayasofya. In the mosaics of this church, their gifts are still preserved, secure for many centuries behind the protection of what were once the mightiest of walls. But from the east came other armies, Persians and Saracens, the hosts of Genghis Khan. And finally, with the cannons of Mehmet the Conqueror, even the walls of Justinian were breached. Through the gap came the Ottoman Turks. The city was taken. To Ayasofya, the Christian church, where did the minarets of Islam, and emblems of a new faith. Henceforth, no bells called to worship. Over the shining rooftops and through the crowded streets rang the cry of the muezzin. While high above the city, the Sultan built a palace fit for the servant of Muhammad the Prophet. Istanbul looked out to a new dominion, which was to stretch from the Indian Ocean across the Mediterranean Sea and up to the very gates of Vienna. Conquerors came and empires rose and fell, but the foundations on which each rested remained beyond the waters of the Bosphorus, among the distant hills and plains of central Turkey. Here the granary of the country lay, neglected. But these were the lands which yielded year by year their steady harvest, and reared a hardy people whose fight to win a living for their villages and themselves outlived each passing conquest. But here, too, time had left its mark, laid bare the land and held the people back, bound by the habits and the traditions of another age. Here the fruits of the soil were hard won. Among these distant hills lay an old fortress town. Here, Kemal Atatürk, founder of modern Turkey, built a new capital, Ankara, and set to work to redress the balance of 1,000 years, to bring trees and water to the barren plains, to give his people a feeling of their worth, to help them in their age-long struggle to earn a better living from their land.
The work begins out in the villages. That is where I have my job. All the time I talk to the farmers in my district. I tell them how they can use new tools or new methods of working their land so that they can produce more food for market and buy more things for themselves. They will listen, but when I have gone, I wonder will they shrug their shoulders and say, "What does a government official know about farming which we do not know?" But look at this village. For generations, son like father has farmed in the old way, and the crops have been meager, and the harvests poor. But I tell you a story of this boy, Yusuf. He went to one of our state farm schools, and when he came back, he wanted to make a new start and get a metal plow. A plow which would turn the earth instead of scratching the surface. But his father, Zekeriya, would not listen. "We have always used a wooden plow," he would say. "I know what is right." So the argument went on, for Yusuf was persistent, but always his father said, "No." Disheartened, Yusuf would sit alone in the cafe, while the men talked and played backgammon and listened to the radio.
This is Ankara. Here is the news. It is reported from the Ministry of Agriculture that a further sum of dollars has been granted to the ministry for the purchase of agricultural equipment. Orders will be placed shortly for the equipment to be purchased. On the other hand, the ministry has, from the Peruvian...
Yusuf took his chance. "You see, now is the time to get new equipment," he said. "Let me try working that old bit of pasture on the other side of the village with a new metal plow, and do it the way they taught us at the farm school. A metal plow will not cost much money. Let me try." Zekeriya was silent, but the others joined in and said, "Let the boy have a go. You have nothing to lose." Yusuf looked at his father, and Zekeriya thought, and then suddenly he said, "Yes, my son, we will get a metal plow." That was how the story of Yusuf and his plow began. He came first to me and asked for my help. I explained what he should do and how to make an application for the new plow, and promised to help him with other bits of equipment, because this was also my chance to show the village what could be done with new ideas. A week later, I went with the lorry to the village, and Yusuf was there, waiting. That day, we delivered the metal plow. Next morning, as soon as the sun was up, Yusuf began plowing. His father and some of his father's friends came to see him start, but their eyes were still critical. But Yusuf worked through that day and the next, and gradually he got the feel of the new plow as the furrows began to pile up behind the turning blade. When the plowing was over and the seed in, the village forgot about Yusuf, for the land is slow to show results. His father had village affairs to discuss with the headman, and the months went by. But one day, when the wheat was beginning to grow, I came back with the agricultural officer for the whole region to see how Yusuf was progressing. We looked at the wheat, and with the passing months, it promised well. Six, 7, 8 years to one seed. The promise was good, but that was only the beginning.
Yeah, you only begin to get moving in the country if you've got machinery. Then you can really get started on the job of growing more food. There wasn't a whole lot of equipment in this place when I came a few years back, but it's changed quite a bit since then. But when people get machinery for the first time, that's when you gotta be careful. You gotta see they know how to use this stuff properly. Now in Canada, we've had the same kind of problem, and we've got some of the know-how at that. Suppose that's why they brought me over here. They gave me the job of organizing the spares in the main equipment depot, making sure that everything was where you could find it. Now, when a guy comes around to my office, I tell him, don't worry about the big stuff outside. You can always get that if you've got the cash. It's the small parts that count, and I got 'em all. Brake linings, fan belts, clutch plates, and all the rest of 'em. If you've got a tractor, you never know when you're going to be held up by something very simple, like a plug, for instance. Yeah, I'll tell you something about plugs. This kid came here to one of the tractor training courses. His name was Eamon. His village had bought themselves a tractor. They got another guy lined up to run it, who'd been driving lorries in the Army. Said he knew all about it. But they'd send Eamon along to the training school as a kind of insurance. Well, Eamon put in his time here, while the other fella came and collected the tractor, full of his own importance. You know, you could just see what was gonna happen. He fussed around and treated the tractor like it was a pet dog. As far as he was concerned, all Turkey was at his feet. Well, when he got that tractor back to the village, he strutted around and showed it off as if he'd brought the circus to town. Meantime, it was Eamon and the other boys who were being put through the hoop. At the tractor school, they taught him how to look after a machine the right way, how it worked, how to do running repairs. With the government bringing in all kinds of new farm machinery through martial aid, they sure needed to know how to use it. They took the boys out in the fields, too, and made them plow and use the proper matched equipment. tripping in a plow at the right time isn't as easy as it looks. I tell you, that boy Eamon picked up a lot in 6 months. So did Neshtet, in a way. Worked hard enough. In fact, in one day, he plowed up more land with his tractor than a farmer with a horse and single-furrow plow would cover in almost a week. Yeah, Neshtet was all right, as long as the tractor was sweet and happy. But one day was going to happen, and it did. Just died on him. Well, Neshtet could cope with the gasoline and the water, even knew where to put the oil. But what really happened inside that engine was one of nature's mysteries. Now, he tried all right, but luck's not always on your side. Didn't make it any easier to see the others plodding steadily on with their horses either. Come evening, and the light went, and the day's work was finished for the rest of them, Neshtet was still there. Yeah, he fiddled and fussed, but in the end, his temper got the better of his pride. Happened next day, Eamon turned up from the tractor school. Once the greetings were over, he and his father and Neshtet went off to take a look at that tractor. Now, Eamon was a bright boy anyway, but the thing was, he knew how to set about the job, and he knew what to look for. Sure, it was the plugs, just as simple as that. Well, he read Neshtet a lesson, told him how to keep them clean and be sure the points were adjusted. Told him some more besides about always checking over the main parts. You see, it's the little things that count, as I always tell him. Well, after that, the tractor ran just as sweet as it should. And that village, at least, got almost a quarter more land under cultivation that year.
But it is only at harvest time that one can tell how well one has worked. The village that bought the tractor and the village where Yusuf lived, both are in my district, and both of them show the kind of problems we are facing in Turkey. Yusuf tried to get his village to accept new ideas, and Yusuf succeeded. For when the harvest was over, he had got a good crop and good seed too, and even his father was impressed. In the other village, they had to learn how to use the new equipment properly and well. There, when harvest came, they hired a combine, and it went through the fields, cutting a 10-foot swathe. when the work was done, the yield was nearly twice as much as the village had before. It is a hard job, and the results came slowly, but each year brings its own reward. More food for market means a better living in the villages.
This is an ancient land which still has much to give. Men's work and skill in the resources of a country with many thousand acres still unplowed. These can produce in quantity the grain which Turkey needs and other countries too must have. With greater power, more machines and new methods, a distant prospect can become a new reality as a people move forward to reap a richer harvest.